Hi, I'm John Moses for Charlie's Cavalry, bringing you this week's Coach's Show. Joined as always by Chargers head coach Pete Rosamondo. Coach, coming off a bit of a sloppy 21-7 victory over Assumption. One thing that I really looked for in this game was your team's ability to start quickly. Come out, get a couple of big plays, and take a lead early. Assumption was a team you've never led against, so why did your team really struggle in that first quarter to put points on the board?
Well, we obviously gave up a sack on the first play of the game. That's never a great way to start, and we just could never seem to get out of that field position. Even though we had a couple nice punts from Ronnie Nelson, we still never ever got to that point where we were in a positive field position. So we just kept playing from behind at that point, and Assumption did a great job defensively of scheming us up and putting themselves in good situations to make plays. And that second drive, we had a great opportunity to get a first down, and Mike DeCaro, makes a move on the corner instead of just getting the first down, and ends up not getting it. We have to punt again from a backed up area, which is never good.
In a game that saw 21 total penalties, 14 against your team, it was not as quite a disciplined game as we expected coming into it. Why was it so sloppy out there? Why were the referees so busy?
Very disappointing for me and for our coaching staff and for our football team. They were disappointed, I think, in themselves for some of the lack of composure penalties. I think that, there's going to be aggressive penalties in the game, and some games there's obviously going to be more than others. But in that game, it seemed to get away from us a little bit in the first half, and we certainly need to clean that up because it's going forward. We're not going to win games doing that.
The offensive line has been a real strength of your team through the first through the first 4 games of this season, and they really struggled against Assumption's front seven. I think coming into this season, if you looked at a game where your offensive line might struggle, it would be against William & Mary the week before this. What gave you so many problems with Assumption's front seven?
They were very active, very mobile, and they have a couple of really outstanding players in that front four, and the other guys were great complement guys to those people, and they really worked well together. And unfortunately, our guys just didn't on that day for whatever reason. They just didn't play together, and it was very sloppy performance by the 5 guys up front, and we need to certainly clean that up in order to move forward from here.
Coming into this game, Assumption was allowing over 150 yards per game on the ground. But your team, you sort of struggled to establish the run game early in this one. What really went into that?
Well, a lot of it was they were stacking the box with people. They were putting 8, 9 guys close to the line of scrimmage, which making it very difficult for us to gain positive yardage. And then, they were opening things up in the pass game, which is why Ryan threw for over 300 and probably could have had close to 400 if it wasn't for some of those foolish penalties.
After struggling on offense early in this game, your team managed to put it together, putting up a 14-point halftime lead. But I think going into that halftime, you were really disappointed with the way some things had went. What were some of the adjustments your team went through in the second half?
Well, I think, defensively, we just really had to make sure we focused on their run game because, they were down to their third-string quarterback, and they actually played a defensive player in that position who was more of an athlete, a wildcat quarterback, if you will. And so we knew we had to focus on the run game, and that was really what we were trying to do at that point. Offensively, it was just, simple, block and, give our running back some opportunities to make some plays. And we got that first drive, and we hit some big runs on the first drive. And, obviously, we had one of those 15-yard penalties that killed the drive inside their 40 and brought us back, and we wound up punting at that time. But we did make those adjustments up front, and I felt like we got better as the game went on.
Despite getting sacked 8 times, Ryan Oshesky actually finished with some pretty nice numbers. 22 completions on 32 attempts, over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. And, of course, he had a beautiful throw to Jason Thompson for a long touchdown.
Yeah, Ryan was excellent. I think he was he was on his back a lot in the first quarter and was getting chased a lot, but, kept his composure and had a good feel for what we were doing in the pass game and was able to exploit some of the things they were giving up, on their defensive side of the ball. So it was great to see that. So
now let's take a look actually at that play with Jason Thompson. What's the route here? What's the coverage like? Break it down a little bit for us.
Well, it's a 2-high safety coverage, and it's a double move. Jay gives him a little stutter step there, which forces the corner to stop his feet. And we had a feeling that if Jay got behind him, that they would have a really tough time of defending him. You can see some of their front 4 guys being really active, even on a great throw like that, still pressured.
Yeah, you still got a piece of them on that one.
Get some pressure on Ryan.
I was really impressed with the way your defense closed out this game down the stretch in the fourth quarter, forcing a turnover on downs on each of Assumption's last 3 possessions. Talk a little bit about their performance.
Oh, they were outstanding. Our front four was about as dominant as I've seen them in a game in a couple of years, and they really played well. They played within themselves, and they played within the framework of the defense, and they got us stops when we needed it, put pressure on the quarterback. They stopped the run game and forced them to go outside a little bit more than those guys really wanted to, and just they kept us in the game. If it wasn't for them, we'd have been in a lot of trouble.
Well, you had a couple of really nice forced fumbles, of course, that we can see here. This one is in the third quarter. It looks like leading at the time 14-7. And tell us a little bit about this play.
This is the first one here of the game. Stop one of their drives. Right there, J.D. Shalafo pulls one out there, and as you can see, we're rallying to the ball. And
yeah, just sort of a situation there where the receiver trying to get a couple too many yards after the play.
Yeah, you got to protect the football. Obviously, they didn't, and we had the opportunity to get it back, which again, you have to stop their drive, especially when you're struggling offensively, and that gave us the ball at midfield. This is actually the second one that gave us the scoring opportunity. There's 6 minutes to go and a half. We hadn't had much going offensively at all, and our defense has an opportunity to come up with a big turnover, and they do here. So this is one of our pressures. Mike Gomes, we're blitzing him off the weak side, and they got a little missed fumble and missed handoff in the backfield, and Mike's right there to jump on the ball. It's obviously a great opportunity again for our offense to start on the 18-yard line.
Yeah, it's a really nice job there. You bring 2 guys coming at the same right tackle, and he ended up blocking neither of them.
Right.
So
it's always nice to put those guys in a bind.
We had a very sombering moment at the end of the fourth quarter when inside linebacker Cody Wallace was hit out of bounds. He ended up having to be removed from the field on a stretcher. Please update us on Cody's condition and if we can see him against Stonehill this Saturday.
Really scary moment, for everybody in the Charger family. I think that Cody's obviously been a great warrior for us, a great football player, and he's fine. Not fine, but he had a concussion, no spinal damage, no. That was mostly precautionary to get him off the field, and I don't know if we'll see him this week, but the good news is he will be back.
This Saturday, your team welcomes Stonehill College to Dellacamera Stadium. Stonehill taking close losses to Pace and American International. What can we expect their strengths to be?
Well, they're a great running team. They have an excellent running back, Demetrius Troy, who really is different than the guy they had last year. This guy has a lot more speed, and he's elusive in the backfield, and he can make something out of nothing. They have tremendous special teams. They got the #1 kick returner in the country. They do a great job on their punt team, #1 punt team in our conference. So, those 2 things are really gonna cause us some issues. I think we have to make sure we get ready to go for this week.
When we spoke on the first edition of this coaches show, you referenced your offensive line. You felt like if you had a couple of injuries there, that you'd sort of be caught in a bind. But you're now faced with 2 injuries in your linebackers core, with Akaki Ramashvili still recovering from injury, and now Cody Wallace's concussion. So, what can your linebacker core look like this Saturday?
I think we'll be okay. We do have depth there. We have Rich Long, one of our linebackers, who's really played an awful lot for us, is going to have to step up and be thrust into a more of a starting role. And Scott Lowry, who's been taking backup reps at our weak side linebacker, will start the game, and hopefully he'll do a great job for us.
We did not see Akaki this Saturday. Can we expect to see the return of the team's second leading tackler from last season?
Well, I think that we'd like to try to get him out there this week. We'll see if we can. It's really up to his foot. It's really it's not up to us anymore.
One of the storylines I've been tracking through the first 4 games this season was how your offense would respond to the loss of wide receiver Sharif Hall. He's really a big play guy, a guy that attracted a lot of attention from your opponents. But Chris Ruffin has really stepped up and really become a nice possession receiver for Ryan. So talk about some of the depth that you have at wide receiver right now.
Yeah, we've got a tremendous receiving core. Chris Ruffin has been he's had a tremendous year. He's worked really hard to get to this point. He's a very explosive player, just like Sharif was, and he's one of those guys that you can really count on to be where he's supposed to be. And as a quarterback, that's comforting. Obviously, Jason Thompson, you saw, he's 6'4", and he can outrun just about anybody. So he's a threat on the outside. And Demetrius Washington Ellison has been tremendous. Josh Smart Nick Music, got into the mix this week a little bit. So we do have a lot of depth there, and we feel really good about that position.
Coach, thanks for all your time. Good luck this Saturday against Stonehill.
Thanks, John.
For more, be sure to tune in to NewHavenChargers.com, or for a completely student perspective, tune in to charliescavalry.wordpress.com.